Welcome back to Mindful Serenity Yoga, or Waking Up in a Busy World. And we're going to continue with our answering of questions. I want to apologize before I begin. I am not sounding like myself, or probably thinking like myself, so I have no idea how I'm going to answer this question. I, as is the rest of my household, am down with COVID. It's about time, I suppose. Even though I'm triple vaxxed, I seem to be getting a good dose of her, which is perfectly okay and no big deal, but I thought I would mention that. So I am going to, excuse my cat, she's not sick. I'm going to reach into my handy dandy jar and pull out a question. Describe heaven and how to get there. Describe heaven and how to get there. I'll press the start button. I will take a deep breath. And I will take a drink of hot water from my Tim's cup. Tim Hortons is a staple in Canada. Okay. Describe heaven and explain how to get there. First of all, I would like to go back to that quote in the Bible, phrase in the Bible, quote, parable, whatever you want to call it in the Bible, about Jesus saying that there is no signs pointing to where heaven is, but it is in the midst of all of us. And I know I'm not saying that exactly, and I can't even tell you what gospel it came from. Luke, I believe. There are no signs pointing to heaven. There are no obvious signs that we, with our intellectual minds, can understand as heaven. And I again refer you back to that quote from Albert Einstein about how it is something so beyond our comprehension. It's like a child entering a library that's full of books of all different languages and never understanding the languages and never understanding how someone could write so many books. Just noticing that they're all ordered in a specific way and just dimly understanding that they're there for a reason. And I think we hold that same type of ideation when we look at heaven, when we look at God, when we look at these dimensions beyond the physical. And I use the word dimension, which is good because I think I heard Eckhart Tolle saying that he prefers to think of it as another dimension. We call the kingdom of heaven, kingdom at the time that the gospel was written, you know, ancient Hebrew translated into Greek by Paul and whomever. Kingdom might have had a different reference than it does now. So when we can look at dimension rather than kingdom, or realm of heaven, this spacious, unconfinable, undefinable, I want to use the word place, but it's not really even a place, more as it is in emptiness, as the Buddhists would say, Shayante. Shante is emptiness, but not in the negative sense. Emptiness as in its vastness and its indescribability and that type of thing. So heaven then is not somewhere up there. We tend to look up when we're talking about heaven, and I like how Sadhguru often refers to this, how idiotic it is in a sense, because we're spinning around on a globe and we're looking up. Well, where is up, right? Where is sky? Where is heaven? Heaven does, in a sense, refer to the skies, and we can, in ancient astrology and all those things, and astronomy, the heavens were the skies, were the boundless space, and that's a good way of looking at it too, because it's completely boundless, it's completely undefinable, unconfinable. It is limitless, and that is what heaven is. It's the spaciousness around us. Is it up there somewhere? No, it's everywhere. It's the space that's in between everything. If we were to look at subatomic particles underneath a microscope, we would see between the electrons there is space, just vast space. In fact, most of our body, 99% of it probably, is space, while 1% of it is actually dense matter. Space makes up everything, so it is not out there. It can't be pointed to by signs. It cannot be directed to it. It is everywhere and everything, and you can't see it because it is space. It's invisible. It's not of physical dimension or physical reality as we see it. We can't see it and understand it with the five senses. Gary Zukav, in his best-selling book, The Seat of the Soul, refers to the comparison between a five-sensory personality and a multi-sensory personality. The five-sensory personality is what most of us are when we are operating by ego terms and living with this sense of who, this image of who we think we are, based on our roles and our bodies and how we, trespass through the earth. We're five sensory. We depend on our five senses to determine our reality. If we can't pick it up with our five senses, it's not real, it's not there. The multi-sensory person he describes is someone who has advanced beyond the five senses and recognizes that there's something invisible, something divine, something inexplicable that goes beyond what science can define or point to, or what we can point to or see with any of our see, taste, smell, hear. It goes beyond our five senses. And that, in a sense, is heaven. It's a word that cannot really be defined in one image, or one conceptual explanation. It goes so far beyond that. How do we get there? We're brought up in the Christian tradition. If you're a Christian like I was, you're brought up to believe that you're only going to get to heaven after you die, and only if, it was very conditional, if you didn't break any of the Ten Commandments, or if you you did exactly what the church said, and went to your confessions and got all your sacraments, and you had to be baptized, and then you had to have the last rites and all that. I ironically have all my sacraments, but I don't think that's because I was ill one time and had my last rites. But I don't believe for a second that that makes me any closer to heaven. How do I get there then? I get there by not waiting till I die. I get there, or strive to get there, strive to get to that spaciousness, to that complete awareness, to that Shayanta, that emptiness, by turning inward now and reflecting and trying to go beyond my thinking mind to that spaciousness that's there between thoughts, between feelings, between all these things the world of form tells us are so important, that the five senses and the five-sensory personality would deem as essential. We go beyond that to a realm that cannot be pointed to by science, and that's in the midst of us, within us. The kingdom of heaven is within. It's in all of us. We have that capability, that way of falling into that divinity, into that absolute peacefulness, when we attempt to do that, when we attempt to touch that higher part of ourselves, the soul, as Gary Zukav would refer to it as. And we all have that capability, and it doesn't, of course we want to ensure that to get there we do have to follow the Ten Commandments in some way, but not necessarily just to get passage to heaven, but because of karma, because of what we give out, we will get in return. So when we learn to touch the soul, and what the soul wants is love and compassion and kindness and peace, when we touch that, then we are, in a sense, touching heaven. We are reaching that higher dimension of self. We are going beyond our conscious mind to the deepest level of who we are. We're watering seeds that will bring us to heaven, or that more or less bring heaven to us. I think that's another way of looking at it as well. So we don't get to heaven by, doing good deeds and judging people and staying away from all the things that we're told are bad, but by looking within ourselves to see what is wholesome, what is skillful in bringing us to a higher state of awareness. And that higher state of awareness, in a sense, is heaven. So that's what we do. Anyway, I'm hoping that makes sense. That's all I have for you today. Have a wonderful day. Namaste.